Hey Wendy, good to see you, and thanks
Like,
for making a bit of time to come and have a chat. Um, we're both fans of peer groups. I mean, you run a few of them, I run a few of them. We've been involved with them for quite a long time. Just explain, for the purposes of this discussion, just tell people a little bit about your job and how peer groups fit into what you do, and then we'll
oh,
talk a bit more about why peer groups are valuable.
yeah. Great question. So I provide business support in five of our innovation centres in Oxfordshire. So I come across a lot of companies. In the main, they're sort of R&D heavy, not all of them. Some of them are fairly traditional businesses. In the main, R&D heavy. And one of the reasons I really like peer groups is because of the contribution that people will make and the ideas that come out of it. And what I always say is that if you get a peer group together, maybe there are 8 to 12 people there, then you're going to get 8 to 12 times the number of perspectives and the
Mm.
experience that I can give to people. It's way more powerful. I mean, I've got one set of experiences, one set of perspectives. So that's all somebody would get if I was coaching them
It's
directly.
kind of a
Whereas
multiplier.
absolute multiplier, absolutely.
And in terms of how you use them in Oxford Innovation, I mean, how do they? I mean, just give us a sense of. I mean, are there lots of people involved? I mean, do they happen once a week, or I mean, just give us a rough flavour of how they work.
So mine, because I have, as I say, I'm slightly unusual in that I work around five centres in Oxfordshire. We have 5 meetings a year.
Right.
And I think I've got 18 folk on the books. And so therefore, and what I do is I move mine physically around the estate. So
Right.
we have one in Culham, one in Harwell, two in central Oxford, and then one in Headington. I just move it around. Um, and as I say, 5 a year. But it has changed slightly in that now the group are really keen on having a later evening meeting, so they can spill out into the pub afterwards.
All right. That sounds like quite a good.
So I have to find somewhere where there's a decent pub.
Sounds good to me. And why would a CEO join one of your peer groups? I mean, what is it that? I mean, what kind? I mean, just explain the value that a peer group would create for a CEO.
So I think the value is really sort of varied, but in the main, it's because a founder for a start, doesn't come with a manual. They're normally good at what they do,
Yeah.
but business-wise, there will be loads and loads of functional specialisms that they really haven't got a grasp on. So, they surely won't be HR specialists or finance specialists or business development
Yeah.
specialists.
Yeah.
So when they get into a group, number one, they can learn about those specialisms from other people who've maybe been there and done it before that. But I think primarily the real benefit is it's such a lonely place being a founder in that you've now got to support potentially investors. You've got to, so you may have to report to a board. You have a senior team, possibly. You'll have people that are working for you, and you've got your family. And there's not one of those groups where you can honestly and openly discuss
Mm.
challenges you're facing or opportunities or get a rational input from somebody. And so with a like-minded group of peers, that's where you can find all that support.
Mm. I think, I mean, and the other thing that strikes me about what you said is that, I mean, building a business, inevitably things go wrong, don't they? I mean,
Yeah,
stuff happens. One of the great things about being in a group like that is that you've got a bunch of people, if you like, that are on your side. And what I mean by that
yeah,
is you can go to them and say, look, we're running into these sorts of problems or challenges. What do you guys think I should do? To get you can flesh out your own thinking before you make decisions, can't you? So it improves the quality
yeah.
of decisions that you make. Is that reasonable? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think like you, Paul, we tend to have what we call a challenge session. So one person or two people in the group will say, look, this is the thing that's keeping me awake at night. Um, and I think the important thing about that is it's probably been going around in their heads
Yeah,
forever because there is nowhere else it can go. And sometimes they will have made a decision, and sometimes the group will say, well, actually, we agree, your decision was right. So it just gives them the confidence
yeah,
to know, to know that the way they were thinking was probably the right way. Or, and we've probably both done the same, you see something come from completely left field.
yeah.
You'd never thought about it before, it had not been in your consciousness before. And it's the thing that is the answer, is the solution to the problem.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
And how do you, I mean, how do you as the facilitator create an environment where people can talk openly and honestly about that? I mean, you have to do a bit of work to make it happen, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I have a sort of a couple of ways of looking at that. One is that I feel that the group should own the ground rules. They shouldn't be my ground rules. They should be theirs. But there are some things I absolutely insist on. And the one really important thing that I insist on it is confidentiality.
Yeah, yeah.
So whatever is in the peer group stays in the peer group. So, to a certain extent, I help them make up the ground rules. Things like, it's probably not good to have mobile devices on because you're distracted. It's really important to be open with open feedback both ways. So accepting feedback and giving feedback. Um, and yes, just to be present and non-judgmental, I suppose. But those bits of the ground rules, they'll decide on. The one piece that I would absolutely insist on is
And
confidentiality.
just for the people that have never been in the pig, I mean, just explain why that's important.
Well, because, and I think as we said at the beginning, this is a space where people can share things they couldn't share with any other of the groups around them. So these are people who are going through similar experiences. And if I didn't insist on confidentiality, they often couldn't be as open as they would normally.
Mm.
um, you know, Anything is on the table in the peer group. And there are vulnerabilities that people, especially as I say, you don't have the manual, so you're not an expert in everything, but there are vulnerabilities that you just don't share with anyone else. And the big benefit is having other people look at your vulnerabilities and share them with you and comment on them and help with them. And you wouldn't do that if you thought there was going to be tittle tattle or it was going to be taken out to a competitor or an investor or somebody they knew. So, yeah, it's crucial.
And
There's
psychological safety,
confidentiality.
will it be having a space where you
Mm.
can talk about
Yeah,
difficult things? And that's
yeah,
the thing, isn't it? It's the difficult stuff because all the other stuff is easy to deal
yeah,
with. It's the difficult stuff where you need the
exactly.
space to discuss it with people to figure out what the right answer is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one of the other interesting things about peer groups, I think, is that it works kind of two ways. So you can come with a problem and get feedback, but also you get to comment on the kind of challenges and problems that other people are dealing with. I might
Mm,
do it the same way as them, I might not. I might make some different suggestions as to how they might. So it's kind of a double-edged learning experience.
mm.
Why is that important?
I think that's really important because you will always gain. I mean, the model sort of is to give more than you get.
Yeah,
So say there's one person with a challenge and eight others in the room, eight people are giving, helping with solutions and technically not getting back. But I think as well, a lot of it is down to the facilitation in that, um, and we both have a sort of methodology that we both stick to in these things. And I think that means that idea builds on idea. So
yeah,
somebody will have an idea and somebody else will think, oh yes, I hadn't thought about it that way. And it's sort of, you can see the idea building around the table. And that way people get to think of things, they just expand their horizons and think completely differently. And will come out, the givers and the getters will both come out gaining an awful lot because they've heard different perspectives and seen different experiences, seen how other people have handled things. Um, Everyone gains.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the point that you're making is that you can learn by sort of discussing other people's problems as well as by having
Mm.
yours discussed, can't you? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a very direct loop when you say, this is my problem, what do you think? But you can also go away and think, oh, okay, I'm going to avoid doing what that person
yeah.
did, because then if I don't get into that, So there's tremendous benefits on both sides, it seems to me. And in terms of being the facilitator, I mean, what is it that you enjoy about it? I mean, you've been doing it for actually longer than I have. I mean, what is it you enjoy about it?
I love it. Absolutely love it. I just, as I say, I think it's that fact that um, it's it's not just my set of experiences, but to be honest, I learn as much, if not more, than the group does. I'm always coming away really excited by a potential solution to a problem, thinking, wow, I hadn't thought of that. What a great idea.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I learn so much. I think it's that, and I think it's also just seeing how these groups gel and become supportive, and support each other, and it almost kind of starts fulfilling itself. People, even if I wasn't facilitating, they'd probably still meet up and they'd share experiences. And I mean, just as an example of that, I ran a peer group many years ago. They've still all kept together, and the minute that COVID happened and those government funded loans and things came out, WhatsApp was red hot. What are you doing about it? Are you taking what, so it's a group that people come to trust, and it is like a lifelong support system, basically, that always will be there.
And those trust relationships are really, I mean, they're very, very, very valuable. But the other question that always strikes me about it is, where else do you develop those relationships? Because it's a particular environment that encourages
Yeah,
it. Without being in that environment, I mean, you might build relationships with
yeah,
others, but you might not. I mean, that
mm,
if you don't, it creates the space to build those relationships, doesn't it? If I always think, well, if I
mm.
didn't have that, where would I get those things from?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you can get them elsewhere, but this is just the way that a peer group is put together. It really does accelerate that and facilitate it.
Yeah. And just, I know you do a lot of coaching. So, I mean, you're a properly
Mm.
qualified business coach and all the rest of it.
Mm.
What's the difference, would you say, between going to a coach, which is a good thing, and going to a peer
Mm.
group, which is a good thing? But they're different things, aren't they? And they bring
They are.
different value. I mean, what would you say is the big difference between the two?
Um, Good question. I suppose one thing that springs to mind is often with a pure coaching session, it's an opportunity for somebody to just literally sort their thoughts out.
Mm.
Um, I think, as long as you're asking the right types of questions, then again, it's that thing that's been going around in somebody's head and they've not outwardly expressed it. And just in the talking about it, just in the offloading, it sorts it out in their heads. I mean, coaching, I mean, it's very similar, and I use a similar model in both cases. But I think with a peer group, as I say, it's that support network, it's multiple
Yeah.
perspectives. It's not quite as intimate as a one-on-one coaching session would be.
Yeah. But I mean, the group thing is about cognitive diversity, isn't it? It's about having
Mm,
multiple perspectives.
yeah, exactly.
That often, I mean, and you will have experienced this when people, I mean, you said it a second ago, people coming in from the left field and saying, I'd do it a completely different way. And you
Mhm.
think, oh God, I've never thought of that. But actually that could be
Mm,
a really good solution. You don't tend to get those in one-to-ones, do you? There's nothing wrong with one-to-ones, they're good things. But the
yeah,
group is that diversity.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like I said at the beginning, when I'm coaching, I am one person with one set of experiences
Yeah,
and one set of perspectives. That's where I get huge amount of excitement from, is I suddenly see all these different perspectives just
yeah.
amplifying everything.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I think is really important is I mean, we have this cliche in Britain about, you work on the business, not just in the business. And that's really important. And I mean, that in itself is a bit of a cliched statement. What it's really about is saying you've got to take time to reflect on where you're going, on what you're trying to achieve, not
Mm,
just beavering away at trying to make it happen. Much as a lot of business people are very focused on getting stuff done. I mean, that's something about being an entrepreneur, I think. I mean, they tend to be people that
mm,
like to do stuff. there's a tremendous value in taking time out to think about what you're doing, isn't there? I mean, what's your take on the role that that plays in the way businesses develop over time?
Um, I think, well, again, I think as well, if you're surrounded by people who have got good examples about doing things, and you see the way people have, possibly somebody's been there and done it beforehand, done it, then you can, if you like, ride on that, and it helps you. It helps you unlock a problem much quicker, or helps you find a solution much quicker. Um, Also, I think there's a little element. I know possibly slightly differ on that, but there's a little element about accountability
Right.
in that if you've spent time with a group of people who've willingly given their time to you, and you go away and don't do anything, then it where you feel that you become accountable, because you have got to go back and say, look, appreciated all that input from you last week, and on the back of it, I did X. If it was just a talking shop, I think people would get really um, quite jaded and wouldn't want to give their advice. People love to see that their help is being acted on.
Mm.
Um, so I think there is an element of accountability in it.
Mm. And I think that people want. I mean, it's partly what I was saying a second ago about there are a bunch of people that are on your side, if you like, when things
Yeah.
get difficult, which they inevitably will do. I mean, that's partly about what you're talking about, isn't it? Is that people feeling that they're contributing to you working through whatever the challenge is, because it's
Mm,
those are difficult things to do on your own, and it's
yeah.
often very helpful to have other people's thoughts and perspectives on how to find a way through those particular problems or challenges or whatever. And what would you say if you were going to, if you met a CEO? What I mean, why would you? What would you suggest? What would be the most important reason they should join?
I mean, all the above, really. It's all the things we've spoken about.
But if you
In
had to
that,
pick one, if you had to pick
if
one,
I had to pick one, I think it's the support side. It's the emotional support that people get. It's that trusted group that's always there, got your back, knows you and your business, because over the time they get to know you quite well and understand your business. You don't have to keep explaining what your business does or who you are or what your background is. They know all that, and they're there, yeah, to provide support as and when.
which is really valuable. And of course, where else would you get that? I mean,
Yeah,
because of the confidentiality bit, you talk about stuff that you wouldn't talk about in other places.
exactly.
So this bunch of CEOs that you're with, they know you in a sense, in a way that nobody else does,
Mm,
which
mm,
is incredibly powerful, I think.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Wendy, thanks for taking a bit of time to explain about peer groups and why they're valuable and how they work. And I really appreciate you doing that and carry on the good work, as they say.
Oh, will do.
All right. See you again soon.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Cheers, Wendy. Bye bye.